life happens. And at the end of the day, we can't be surprised by it. Dan Miller, we recorded this amazing episode on NIL House on stress and things that stress us out. And Dan talked about how back in the day, you know, when a bear would come out, we would get that rush of cortisol and adrenaline. And it was so important for us because that acute stress gave us that understanding of warning and danger and allowed us to, you know, respond appropriately. But if he was talking about, like, if you're going to go camping, if you're going out and you know that there are bears, you got to bring bear spray. And so our entire episode was dedicated to bear spray. Well, what is your bear? What are the curveballs that are happening that are stressing you out? But even more than that, because stress, we know, spikes cortisol, which will impact our blood glucose. But even more than that, stress gives us excuses in a lot of ways. And when I say stress, I mean a lot of it where these curveballs come in. Life shows up unexpectedly. But haven't we learned by now to expect that unexpected? Now, we don't know what it's going to be, but we certainly know it's going to happen. And life showed up for me this week in a way that was so crazy. But because I had in place bear spray, as well as a mindset that was going to get me through it, I was okay. We have to stop allowing life to throw curveballs at us and us believing that because those curveballs came at us, we have the ability and the excuse and the rationalization to not show up for ourselves. How many of you had the curveball and then it was like a whole month later where you're like, yeah, I've been off all month? My whole point is we're not going to just keep starting over. It's about, there's a reason why we say your next meal is only 3 hours away. It's a metaphor for life as well. You can always get yourself right back on. You don't have to wait until Monday. Life is going to throw you curveballs. We're going to give you some tools to be able to hit them. But also, I need you to know that there are bears in the forest. Bring your bear spray at the end of the day. So right now, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who has been bringing her bear spray and life has been showing up. Karen Lynn, are you there? Are you going to say hello to us? Where are you? All right, here we are. Hello, Karen Lynn.
Hello.
I am so excited. You guys say hello. I actually, when I talk to Karen Lynn, I always put KL as my initials for her. So put in a KL so you can say hi to Karen Lynn. Before I tell you where Karen Lynn is now, I really want you to hear when I met Karen Lynn, which was how long ago now, Karen Lynn?
May 18th is when I started. So it was a couple weeks before that, a little over a year.
So a little over a year. You and I got a chance to talk and your life was like very different than it is now. And so I'd love for you to just share a little bit about what your life was like before you learned the PFC3 lifestyle.
Oh, my life before I learned PFC was constantly dieting, constantly. I joke that I was on Weight Watchers in utero because I was raised in a dieting mentality household. So didn't
you know how much chicken weighed by like third grade?
7 years old in my brownies meeting, the lady said we had a nutritionist says, how big do you think a serving of chicken breast is? Thinking we were going to go, about this big. And I said, 4 ounces. She about fell over.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let's go into it. Like really paint us a picture of what your life looked like.
No, I was at a point where, I had gained and lost the same amount of weight over and over and over. Actually, a little bit more each time, it seems.
What's supposed to happen? It's working.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I had just kind of thrown in the towel and said, I'm done with the dieting thing. I've finally moved to my dream home and I'm going to just be happy. And I wasn't eating poorly. See, I wasn't eating poorly, but I wasn't writing everything down. I actually threw away, as you know, 10 years worth of food and weight journals, where I wrote down everything.
I need you to say that again. Explain what that was.
I had spiral.
It wasn't just journals. Like this was go specific with what you.
There was nothing journaling and reflective about it. I wrote down every morning what I weighed, and I wrote down everything I put in my mouth for 10 years. I had spiral notebooks, and every page was a day, and I wrote it all down for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. I was always thinking about food. And and like I said, when I kind of got to the end of the rope, I wasn't really eating poorly. I wasn't making, I married to a chef, and we were kind of home for COVID. Being locked down with the unemployed chef is not necessarily the best thing either for the waistline, but but he at least always had the protein, the veg and starch on each plate, so and we weren't eating at restaurants because they were closed. So we were pretty much eating healthy, but I was gaining weight, and my doctors always took my blood work and always said, your blood work looks great, don't worry about it. And I finally went into the doctor a year before I started working with you, and I went into the doctor and I said, look, this is quite honestly the stage of the game where I panic and I go pay someone several $1,000s to make me lose weight really fast. And I can do that if you think I need to do that, but I need you to tell me, because I really don't care. I mean, I'm happier than I've been my whole life. And she said, no, blood work looks great. Keep going, trucking. Then a year later, I had started to show signs of fatty liver and all this other stuff. And my doctor was concerned. And he actually told me, I need you to go see a dietitian. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go see a 20-year-old who's never had a weight problem and tell me calories in, calories out. I know what she's going to say. I've heard it all before. I could probably teach her a thing or two. And, you got me kidding.
You were the epitome of, I know what to do, I just don't do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
But you didn't know what to do, totally.
I didn't. I had never heard of blood sugar stabilization, and that's what really intrigued me. Mm-hmm. And, I actually had my husband come along with me to talk to you, because I was so desperate. I just didn't want to be led astray. I just knew how badly I wanted it. So my husband came and talked with you with me, and it was so funny because we got full. He said, I'm so mad. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm a diabetic. I sat through 8 hours of diabetic education, and they never taught us that. That's what I should have been taught, not how to turn my insulin up when I eat pasta. Boom. He was like, this makes so much sense. You've got to do this. So,
So no longer are you, what did you do with your notebooks? Let's be honest.
Oh, I threw them out. I had a friend come over and she said, what are these? And I said, my notebooks, just get rid of them.
and we're talking about curveballs. So we're going to talk about where you are now and all the craziness that's amazing that's been happening to you, and crazy curveballs, just like all of us. But what happened right after you said yes to yourself and decided, okay, I'm going to live this lifestyle? Life showed up for you.
Well, yeah. Especially this past March, actually. So it had been almost a year, and it's really amazing how just intuitive and how my bear spray had just become such a part of my life that I didn't even realize I had it in my back pocket. It just.
Say that again.
I said the bear spray had just become such a natural part of my life. I didn't even realize I had it in my back pocket.
Okay. But now I want to pause you, because you showed up for yourself every day, right? In the portal, you did your learning and you were committed. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, you didn't even realize how much you were learning, but you did listen to me and you threw away the scale.
For sure. Yeah, no, I said, what I've done hasn't worked. I'm going to try this her way. She's got it. She's, I was just like,
Yep.
And I'm telling you
what.
You
went to your first doctor's appointment. Like, how long after you started the PhD?
I actually started the program on a Monday, and I had shoulder surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff on Wednesday.
Okay, I want y'all to hear that. She had surgery 4 days after she started.
2 days.
2 days. No excuses.
No, well, the reason I did it is because I knew it would reduce inflammation. And I'm like, well, I know enough to know that reduced inflammation is good for the healing process. And I don't want to be in physical therapy a day longer than I have to.
There you go.
So we're going to do this. And, so I did the whole thing with one arm. And I had gone in for a pre-surgery checkup. So I had that starting weight a week before, week prior. And then I threw out my scale. So I didn't know until 5 weeks later, I went back for my 4-week follow-up.
Yep.
And I stood on the scale with my back to the scale, and I told the nurse, do not tell me what that number says. I do not want to know. And then my doctor.
Wait a minute. This is a woman who wrote down her weight every single day for 10 years. I don't want to underestimate or undervalue just how much strength you had to have to be able to do that, and trust in the process.
Yep.
But a lot of strength. I mean, I want everybody to be like, strength right now. That is not an easy thing to do, but you did it. And tell us more about what happened.
Well, the doctor walked in, and he was telling me that I really need to lose weight. I need to see that. So he came in, he said, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? He says, you've lost 20 pounds. And I'm like, well, thanks a lot. I was trying not to know, and he's like, well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. But the coolest thing, Carrie, is that I went in 6 months later for my yearly physical, and he walked in, and he had typed up printed out Dr. G's sensible diet plan, all the don't eat carbs after noon and drink water in the morning, and all the stuff I knew already. And it was so funny because he looked at me and he says, you are so different. And I said, well, I think I've lost it. I don't know I'm not getting on the scale. He goes, no. I'm not talking about your weight. I'm not talking about your size. You are different. He says, you carry yourself differently. You've got a confidence that I don't even recognize. And I'm telling you what, that was so cool. That was so cool.
You have lost weight so many times.
I don't.
But did you ever feel confident?
No. Well, no. Okay.
What made you confident this time?
Well, the funny thing is that I have always boxed up my clothes as they got too big and put them in the attic just in case. Because too many times I've gone back and worn them again. I mean, I don't buy new clothes because I just go up and down the closet from the small to the and I've been confident that I'm not gonna gain the weight back, but I haven't been positive before in the past, and it hasn't worked. So I eventually did need those clothes. Yep. I am getting rid of anything that is too big. It is out of my house because I know with certainty that I am done with the dieting. I know, and I knew that when I had only lost 20 pounds, Carrie, that I didn't even have to lose a ton to know that. I knew my life had changed because I knew I was doing it forever. Yes. Because it's not burdensome at all.
But wait. So then when you went back to the doctor more recently, then what happened?
Well, that actually was, he actually sent me a MyChart message because he took my blood work.
Okay.
And he sent me a MyChart message that says, oh my gosh, that fatty liver work, it's all normal. And your triglycerides look awesome. And your LDL everything has never looked better. He says, you just keep doing what you're doing. And I want to see you back in 6 months. And I thought, 6 months? And I messaged him back and says, aren't yearly physicals yearly? And he says, well, typically, but I want to see you because I want to see how good
really
you're
interested to be like, he was like, what's going on?
Yeah, he says, I need you to, I said, well, can you waive the copay or I'll take you out for coffee? I'm like, I don't want to pay you to come tell you how great I'm doing.
He wants you to coach him.
Yeah. So it's been a joy.
So at that last visit, because you still don't have a scale, but you stood on one. How much?
I had lost.
How much you lost?
Well, he didn't tell me how much I lost. He actually didn't.
Oh,
but I had gone to. It wasn't that one. I had gone for other annual physical.
Okay, got it.
Somehow it came out, and it was. I had lost at that point. I think it was like 48 pounds. And at my recent colonoscopy that I went in for.
Oh, that's what it was.
It's down to about 59 right now.
59. And you haven't had a scale since the very beginning. So you had no idea. All you just knew was that you are just.
It doesn't matter.
No, exactly.
It honestly, it doesn't even matter to me. Because I know I'm not where I'm going to end up, but it doesn't matter. because I know I'm going to end up where I should be. And I'm going to I feel so great right now. And my life is so different.
So right now, I think I'm going to give one example of how things are different. You were already strong. I mean, we already knew you were strong because you just said, I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to say no to the scale. And that takes strength in and of itself, especially for someone that wrote it down every day for 10 years. But you are actually strength training right now. Yeah. Talk about your 1% progress when it came to the spinning plate of exercise, because I love your story around this.
Yeah, well, when as I said, I was like this. My arm was pretty much wrapped to my body. I was sleeping and sitting up. I mean, I couldn't even sleep. So I wasn't doing any exercise, and I actually started by walking around the rooms in my house. We have a kitchen island, and I can do like a little lap from our living room around the kitchen island. I literally started not even leaving my house.
This is what I'm talking about, you guys. 1%.
And then
no excuses. I don't care if it's snowing out or raining out. She started by walking in a circle around her island. All right, and keep going, and then
I went outside.
Of you walking outside.
Yeah, and then I started walking around the block. And then I started seeing neighbors I hadn't seen in a long time. And I wanted to see the neighbors on the next block over. So I started walking 2 blocks and then 3 blocks. And then we have a beautiful botanical garden 1/2 mile away from our house. And so my goal was to make it to that garden. And I started walking that garden every single morning. And then it got to be where that was. So I started meandering the neighborhood. And my goal is never to take the same route twice. And I use the Map My Walk so that I can kind of keep track. And I just wind back and forth different routes every single day, and I usually put in about 2.5 miles every morning.
But now you are also strength training.
Yes, that's super fun, and that's a whole new 1% thing, because I was a dancer. I was really I was in gymnastics. I was really athletic, but it's been a while. It's been a minute. And I've kind of lost that whole coordination thing, which is really perplexing for me because I'm so used to it coming so naturally, and to not be able to figure out how to get my arm over here and all this stuff. And I just thought, you know what? I don't care. I don't care how goofy I look on Zoom. I don't even care. We're just going to do it. And I actually was traveling with my mom. When I was traveling, I didn't have hand weights with me, but I had a bag of apples. So I used the bag of apples as my weights and some water bottles.
Do you see what I'm talking about, you guys? This is different. This is about her identity now. This is who she is. She doesn't have to negotiate with herself because she showed up little bits every day. It became routine, became who she was. Literally, people talk to you now and they're like, who are you? Like, you're just so different now. And the way that you carry yourself, the way that you talk. And I think the true test of knowing that your identity is in you as your own nutrition boss is when life throws curveballs at us.
For sure.
And so recently, last week, when I was in New York City, I mean, it was crazy, right? I was in Broadway with Grace. My other daughter had a volleyball tournament the same exact week, starting on Monday in Florida. We had to be in New York City and Florida at the same time. We went to New York. Ellie flew by herself. My husband was supposed to fly on Tuesday. Grace and I were supposed to fly on Wednesday. Our flights got canceled. It was nonstop chaos. I finally got my way to Florida. Ellie had to stay in a hotel by herself all week. My husband couldn't get there. I finally got there on Friday. She was flying to Mexico on Saturday to visit friends and family. Her flight got canceled. I mean, it was a whole lot. But there were 2 things that I did throughout that whole time. And then we're going to give you 5 tips on what you do when a curveball comes your way. Because Karen Lynn had a very big curveball come her way, and she totally got through it like a champ because this is now who she is. So I had my emergency bag of protein bars and turkey jerky and all of the things, which I always have on me. I had that with me. So no matter what happened, I knew I could fuel myself, because if I couldn't fuel myself, my body was going to react in a way that was going to cause more stress. I needed to be able to eliminate that from the problem at hand. And then 2, I never stop doing morning time ever, even if it's 5 minutes. I have to get myself recalibrated every morning so I can set my intentions and be ready and then evaluate what happened the day before and get myself back on track. If you are doing morning time and have your emergency kit, you can handle any curveball. Karen Lynn, very quickly, tell us a little bit about what your curveball is, and we're going to start getting into the 5 tips.
Yeah, my mom had a medical emergency in Seattle, and I literally threw 3 changes of clothes in my backpack and jumped on a plane with about 2 hours notice. But just like you, I ran out to my car and I grabbed my emergency kit out of my car that had the bars and the chomp sticks and all that stuff. And I just threw it in my backpack and I went on my way. And the coolest thing was, once that plane landed in Seattle, it took 1 trip to the grocery store. I knew exactly what to get, and it wasn't even a thing. It was so great to not have to think about it, to just check it up and do it.
That is what we're talking about. And that was her being a boss. She just went right to the grocery store. Yes, her mom needed her. Yes, all of that had to happen. But she went to the grocery store so that she knew she could eliminate that from the chaos and the stress, and know that, you know what? I have to take care of myself so I can take care of others.
For sure.
Karen Lynn, we're going to go over 5 tips, the 5 things that you and I both were doing while we hit curveballs. And what's so funny is, I don't even think we totally realized we were doing it, but as we map this out, we realized, oh my gosh, yes. So I'll start. I'm going to go with number 1. When you are in the middle of a curveball, and I want everybody to write 1, because we're going to talk about 5 things. This is the first one. When you see the curveballs coming at you, the very first thing you have to do, and I want you to write this down on a note card, because I promise you life is going to show up, especially when you say yes to yourself. 1, take a breath and recognize your blessings. The idea of gratitude is so important. Thank goodness Karen Lynn had the ability to get on an airplane and go to her mother. Thank goodness my daughter was safe in a hotel room and there was no danger for her, right? Take a breath and remember your blessings or your gratitude in the moment. It will ground you for step 2. If you don't do step 1, you will never get to the rest of the steps. All right, Karen Lynn, what's number 2?
Step 2 is everything is figure outable. And no matter what life throws at you, there is a solution. So you just got to focus on that and figure it out, because it's all figure outable. I was able to grab those things, throw them in my backpack, and then once I landed, get to the store, and it was all easy squeezy.
Think about that, you guys. If you believe it's figure outable, if you believe there's a solution, there will be. If you think it's impossible, if you think there is no solution, how would you ever find one? Because you don't believe it's there. You can't find something you don't believe exists. So you can't figure it out if you don't take a breath and have that level of gratitude to be able to ground yourself. Then you will, I'm not saying you figured it out yet, but you have the belief that you can, right? And then number 3, watch your language. So I know when I was in the middle of my chaos, I was struggling to figure out a solution. I knew there was one, but I didn't know what it was. I remember on Friday, when I was in the midst of all sorts of stuff, I called my parents and I set the intention for the phone call. I said, this is what's happening. I'm struggling. I need your ideas of help. The idea of what I needed to do in that moment was so basic and obvious. I just couldn't think of it. My brain wasn't going there. But so often when we're in chaos, we will call somebody up and just complain and be a martyr or use it as an excuse, right? If you're working with a coach or you have a friend that's doing this lifestyle and you're like, but this is what happened. People are going to be like, oh yeah, you know what? You can't show up for yourself. You need to have that language and be real careful about it. If you want to vent to somebody, you tell them in advance, I'm venting. I don't need your help. I just need to vent. Or you say, I need help figuring out a solution, but watch your language. And if you tell yourself that you're stressed, if you tell yourself this is awful, it will be. All right, that's number 3. 4, Karen, go.
Take care of yourself and put your oxygen mask on first. And it was so important for me because I had to be there for my mom and I had to be there through the whole thing. I mean, I was taking care of her and she needed help. And I was so thankful that I was able to fuel my body, because when you fuel your body correctly, you can think clearer. You can think of those solutions a lot better when your body has proper fuel. So that was just so valuable for me.
Right. And so by being able to go to the grocery store right when you landed, you put your oxygen mask on first. There is a reason why every single airplane, everywhere in the world, no matter what culture or language, they tell you, put your oxygen mask on first before putting somebody else's on in an emergency. Sure. That is not just for airplanes. That is for life. You cannot help people if you are not first in a place of foundational stability. I love that. And then the last one, and I think as we think about these 5 steps and what we're really trying to do here is always no guilt, just data. So once you're kind of through the curveball, we want you to take the time to reflect. Think back on what happened. What could you have done differently? What are you really proud of? But reflecting on it means it's just data, no guilt, but I'm always going to get better because there will be bears again, you guys. Did your bear spray work? Did you have bear spray? If not, reflect. But the worst thing you can do is use it as an excuse to continue to not show up. Your next meal is only 3 hours away, and that is the metaphor for every aspect of this. You can just pick up again where you left off. Will you be perfect? No. It is not about perfection, though. It's about consistency. All right, Karen Lynn, let's go over those 5 again. All right. What's number 1? Can you go through all 5?
You want me to go through all 5?
Yeah, just name them. 1.
Okay. Take a breath and think of your blessing.
Number 2.
Everything is figure-outable.
Number 3.
Watch your language.
Number 4.
Put on your oxygen mask first.
And number 5.
Reflect, because if you're going to suffer, you might as well learn from it, right?
That was hitting the curveball right out of the park. That is what I did last week. That is what Karen Lynn did when her mom was in trouble. That is what Mark and Abby are doing right now. That is why they are not here today. They took a breath and they figured out solutions, right? So curveballs, they're going to come, but now you have the formula like a Major League Baseball player to be able to hit them out of the park. So I want everybody to put a reflection in the comments. What is one major thing you're taking away from today? And how are you going to make sure that you use this? Because curveballs are coming. Karen Lynn, this is so much fun.
It is.
I mean, I miss Mark, but I really loved having you here.
Thank you. I so love being here.
So much fun, you guys. Thank you so much. I want to see what your takeaways are, a little reflection, a little check for understanding, like the good teacher that I am. And thank Karen Lynn. This is our first time as a guest coach. Oh, wait, Karen Lynn, I didn't tell everybody the most amazing thing. Karen Lynn is now a certified health coach and coaching other people through this lifestyle. Karen Lynn, high five. Did you ever think a year ago you would be a certified health coach with clients coaching them to change their lives?
No, it is the most fun. I love it.
So proud of you. I love it so much. All right, you guys, don't let those curveballs totally derail you.
Be safe.
Bye.